Hello, friends. My name is Lori. I am the daughter of Harriet, who is the daughter of Daisy, who is the daughter of Ether, who is the daughter of ancestors unknown. Okay, so today I'm coming to you in the big screen because I have a big book and it's kind of hard to show in my little camera here. So this is the first edition of Stitch and Bitch. Boy, this is a big book. Stitch and Bitch by Debbie Stoller. There she is, Debbie Stoller. And I didn't realize she signed my copy. So Debbie Stoller is she created the magazine called Bust, which I believe is still a magazine. It's a feminist magazine. And she writes in here about being a little kid and reading her mom's feminist mystique off the bookshelves and being intrigued and inspired by. And so she was like, yeah, I'm going to be a feminist when I grow up, fuck this, raising kids and serving my husband baloney. And then, so she grows up, she goes to college, she makes this magazine, and then she writes a book, and she has to go on a book tour. And she realized she needs something to do, so she brings some knitting with her. Because her mother and her grandmother, they all had been knitting throughout the generations. And so she had been like, she kept coming back to it. She was like, oh, no, it's not very feminist. If I knit, And so she was like, all right, I don't like to fly, so I'm going to take a train to do this book tour. So she needs something to do, so she brought her knitting with her. And she kept messing up because she kept putting it down and taking it up, putting it down, and it never stuck. So she walked down the train and kept asking people, do you know how to do this? Do you know how to do this knit stitch or whatever? And she did until she found somebody that would help her. So I thought that was a great story. So then once she did that, she was like, okay, I can do this. I like this knitting thing. It makes me feel good. So then she says, she started telling her friends, and they're like, you're knitting, grandma, So she said, it occurred to me that if I had told these folks if I had been playing soccer or learning karate or any of those things, that they would likely have said, cool, because a girl doing a traditionally male activity, now that's feminist, right? But a girl doing a traditional female activity, let alone one as frivolous and time-wasting as knitting, well, what were they to make of that? So she had to rethink her idea of feminism, that the difference between knitting and something that men do was that knitting was something that women do, right? And the people who look down on knitting, she says, were not being very feminist, because it seems like the only things that men had done were worthwhile, right? Building bridges and playing basketball or whatever, and that the things women do were like, women aren't doing anything real. So, but then she asked, well, why aren't boys and men learning to knit? And so, why can't everybody take a kind of pride in the work that our mothers had done as we did in the work of our fathers, right? Why didn't we all take pride in something that was a good thing? So she believes that knitting is a centuries-old craft that women had perfected and deserved to be respected and honored as any other craft. And the fact that it was a gendered activity, that knitting was a gendered activity, put people off. So, but she was saying the gendered nature was what drew her to it. She connected to her grandparents or grandmothers and all of her ancestors, because she came from like, I don't know, Norway or Sweden or somewhere where people knit a lot, and so she was like, she felt connected to that, and these women were like, no, my knitting is awesome. Look what I did. I made this stuff. So she says, Betty Friedan and other like-minded feminists have overlooked the important aspect of knitting when they viewed it simply as part of women's societal obligation to serve everyone around them. They had forgotten that knitting served the knitter as well. So they made it sound like knitting was another form of oppression, of wearing high-heel shoes and aprons and all that kind of stuff. And she was like, no, knitting can be collective and community, and it can give you your own sense of accomplishment and satisfaction and all that kind of stuff. So she's talking about reclaiming knitting as within feminism. So she did just that, and she did this whole book, and this was the first book. I think it came in 2000. Was it 2000 or 2001? 2003. Oh, whatever. Anyways, early 2000s. And so some people say this is kind of like responsible for the revitalization of knitting, because there's like, she did one for crochet, there's another one, there's even more, and there's one for dudes. There's like a whole series of these books, and so it took off. It did kind of put a fire under young women's butts about, yeah, crafting is a good thing. It's not something that we should be assuming that women do it, therefore it's bad. The things that women do. Oh, I don't know. Make the human race. Why do women get such shitty, So anyway, so that's kind of where her intersection of feminism and craft meet, is a reclaiming of what women do as a positive, wonderful, fabulous thing. And look at all the stuff you can make. And you can't see that. I'll have to make another video and show you that window. That's like one of my favorites that I sewed. That's one of the first pieces of fabric that I cut up little pieces and sewed them together. It was so wonderful. Like, why would we denigrate that? So anyway, that's that story, and we'll move on to some crafting. one more thing. This is what I forgot. I wanted to show you this book too. It's called This Long Thread by Jen Hewitt, who is a black, she's black and Filipino. And so she's black and brown. And lots of stickies. I don't know if you can see all my stickies in here. So she is a woman who does, what do you call it? When you dye fabric, but she does original printing on the fabric, designs and, flowers and whatnot, and sells. She has, she copyrights the designs somehow. I forget what she does. But anyways, so she's a print, sewing person. But I think, I don't know if she knits in her spare time or something like that. Oh, little card my mother made. Yay. So this book is interviewing women of color who are crafty people, who are dyers and knitters and designers and sewing and all the different things. And so it's not as feminist. It's not as feminist. It's not as decolonizing. She doesn't use the language of decolonizing. I don't know if she even uses the word sexism, or she might use the word racism in here, but the fact that like the Yarn Craft Council says, oh, there's so many millions of women who knit, but don't say how many of those women are black and brown people, stuff like that. So she is a little critical of things, but not like, she's not like in the parade, kind of a thing. So I won't go into too deep because I just did I wanted to compare the Debbie Stoller's, the white feminism, black and brown women feminism intersecting craft. That's the whole point of this, is that people are talking about it. There's books about it. So, yeah, and we'll talk some more about it. So that's enough for today. I don't want to go on for too long.